that's probably all I got. I ain't got nothing else. It's been a while since I made a video. I think the last one was like an AC/DC thing about the bridge of that song. And I got busy with like Christmas stuff and just the general holidays. And like in this world of my studio, usually in the past, I've had, for whatever reason, like recording projects that have a scheduled release date of early March or February or, you know, like springtime, because I work with a lot of new artists and they want to get out and be on the tours with the bigger artists. And it's a good idea to get your record out a little bit before the end of winter, so it's got a little circulation. Anyhow, that usually means I'm deep in a record right up until Christmas, and then we take a break and come back like right at the beginning of the year and dive right in. If I have some time in that window, I'll fix stuff. Some things are hard to get out of the rack, and they'll take more than maybe a day of circulation, and something might have a little wonky connector that you can limp along with, whatever. So this year was a little different. I don't have a big record that has a particular release planned other than like a New Mexico music record, but I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be more of a late spring, early summer release. Who knows? So I tore into like fixing stuff and dealing with problems. And something that was really unique about 2020 and the studio is I have had a persistent computer problem since like 2018 when I built my last machine. And then that story is going to continue into what I'm about to tell you. Prior to that 2018 computer, I had something I built maybe 2012. It was a gigabyte UDH something or another, you know. It was a really nice motherboard. That whole operation was like one of the most buttery smooth, low latency, low trouble, always up and running, you know, heavy duty bulletproof rig. But as time goes by and plugin developers start making more intense plugins for Pro Tools and that kind of thing, no matter how muscular the computer might have been in 2012 when I built it or so, you know, the interfaces get more complicated, the processing gets more complicated, and eventually those computers start having trouble at mix. I think I could still track today on that computer, no problem, but during mixing, you start having, you know, I forget what it is. There's some, you know, 8973 error or whatever in Pro Tools whenever your CPU can't keep up. So I had to move on, and in 2018 I built this machine, and I really wanted to get another gigabyte board, but I couldn't find another gigabyte board that had Thunderbolt built in at the time. And I use a Thunderbolt interface, or I have used a Thunderbolt interface. Actually, in 2018, I changed interfaces because of stuff I won't get into, because this video probably should be a live stream, and there'd still be nobody watching, but the stream of conscious random roll through information would be more fitting. You know, somebody might comment. I will, by the way, sort of demonstrate what it was that I played there. That's a Ted Hawkins song called Groovy Little Thing. Ted Hawkins is this artist from the 90s, and he wrote some pretty good songs, and I thought that one was pretty awesome, right? So running back to this motherboard thing, I ended up building an ASUS motherboard. I've had ASUS computers, or an ASUS computer around an ASUS motherboard, and I've had ASUS computers before. They've generally been okay performers. The last one I had before the one I built in 2018, it would sometimes just forget the BIOS settings, and you turn it on and it would kind of look at you like, hey, so you're going to build a computer? Fortunately, it had the ability to store its BIOS in like memory location, so I had a pretty quick recovery into the operating system, and I would get going again. So I thought, you know, Asus motherboards are pretty good. This one had good reviews. And that motherboard, by the way, was an Asus TUF X299. It was a clearance item over at Micro Center. Mark 1. Yeah, there you go. And I'll just start out. I'll get right to the end of the story. It sucks. It sucks as a audio platform motherboard, and I'll tell you why. Every other computer operation on that motherboard was totally fine. I had a 7820X CPU. It had plenty of horsepower. It was a good video editing machine, and it was okay at mixing in Pro Tools. Never really had any problem with that. But I had this weird problem that for a long time I thought it might be my interface. I thought it might be my converters. I wasn't sure. But I would lose my audio inputs in a just sort of a random way. And the way that was uniquely difficult during COVID is I did a lot of Zoom music instruction during that time. And, you know, like if I'm working with a client, it can really suck to have that audio input stop working, but you can still be productive while I restart the computer. However, when you're doing a Zoom meeting and suddenly they can't hear you and they just, or they can talk to you. So they're talking to you and then you're just flapping your jaw and they can't hear you. And believe me, as jaw flapping goes, I can yammer on. How long are we into this so far? I can't tell. Oh, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That's if I didn't have a false start. It's possible. So I had a lot of problems with this thing, and then another like business development that I had during this time was like hosting live streaming performances, and every time I did some type of live streaming event or Zoom call, I just had this anxiety that it was going to stop working. The audio input was going to stop working. And the remedy for it was always like a full reboot of the system. I have a solid state drive. Everything reboots probably in, a minute, but that's totally non-productive in a Zoom meeting. And if you're doing a live stream and your stuff stops working, I mean, what do you do? That's terrible on the person I'm working with. Fortunately, for the most part, I might have only had one where I had to reboot the computer during the live stream, possibly two. I have a person I work with who's like a little technological storm cloud where when he's around, things break that have never broken before. So I finally got so fed up with it that I decided, I would reach out to tech support for it because the tech support, I thought maybe it was my audio interface. I have a Motu 112D. It's one of those AVB interfaces, and it connects via Thunderbolt. I reached out to Motu in November. We had a lot of back and forths. It's kind of hard for me to test certain things. They wanted me to hook it to another computer to see if it would work. I still have the old Gigabyte motherboard computer in the server rack, but it's kind of hard when you're working on stuff to like disconnect it, hook it to another computer, and just test it. So finally in December, I got a chance to do that, and the computer worked all day long while I worked on stuff all day long, and the inputs had no issue. So I did determine that the Motu interface was fine, and that the problem probably did lie with the computer that I had been using. So they suggested that I do some type of reboot of reinstallation of the operating system. And I decided, well, that could be an upsetting thing. I'm going to buy a hard drive and I'll just install Windows again on a new hard drive, see if it fixes things. So I did that. And for about a week, it didn't seem to have any issues. But sure enough, I was given a ukulele lesson over Zoom, and I'll be darned if the audio didn't cut out. That was on a Friday. And my heart sank, it really was lame. But it clearly meant that the computer was going to have to go. So I, in my travels on the internet about searching this problem, I searched a lot of stuff about Thunderbolt this and Thunderbolt that. And there was a video that popped up in my YouTube feed sometime in December by this guy whose channel is called Mixbus TV, and he does a lot of mixing and mastering tutorial type stuff. He's a character, he uses like a lot of blue lights all around him, and his set looks like he's got in an ice cave. I want him to show up like that Arnold Schwarzenegger character, you know, and be all blue and icy from one of those. Maybe it was Superman or something. I don't know. Not a superhero movie guy. Anyway, this guy talks about, he has a Motu interface in the same line as mine. It's not the 112D. It's like the 16A or something. And pretty complicated setup. I have a complicated setup. And he built this motherboard around a Gigabyte Z390 Designaire. Maybe I'll get like a sponsorship on something. So I thought, you know, this guy's got the same hardware as me. I'm just gonna, I had a Gigabyte board before. It was fantastic. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it. So I ordered one on Amazon. It arrived like, I think I ordered on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning or something. It arrived the next Monday, which was just a couple of weeks ago. And I built it up, I got it running, and man, life is so much better. I had no idea that the cloud of anxiety that constantly hovered over me about that computer problem, how much it inhibited my ability to undertake other creative ventures. And I can tell you that I didn't make a lot of videos or work on that kind of thing because I thought, oh, I should figure this problem out, you know, like I should solve it. Don't get me wrong, I could do recording sessions and that kind of thing. It seemed to not be as much of a problem in that setting, but doing Zoom meetings or live streaming, something was wonky about that whole thing. So I finally get everything set up. I've got Pro Tools installed, all my plugins installed. It's all good. And because of all, like, you know, the way the algorithm in YouTube feeds you stuff, a couple days ago, 3 or 4 days ago, I saw a Linus Tech Tips video where he had to fix his wife's computer. And one of the first thing he says, like in the first minute or two of the video, he's like, you know, Asus has been a fantastic partner and they make amazing hardware, but their implementation of Thunderbolt is hot garbage. Could I stumble through that anymore? I couldn't agree more. The problem with this computer really was just the Thunderbolt interface. It used a card rather than being kind of baked into the main panel of the outputs on the back of the motherboard. And sure enough, ever since I replaced it with this Gigabyte motherboard, life has been way better. So if there's anything to take away from this, do not buy an Asus motherboard with Thunderbolt to do audio production. Just don't. Just don't. Not until they figure it out, you know. The computer was very stable otherwise, but it was 100% the Thunderbolt implementation that sank my ship over and over again and really made my life very stressful, I guess, you know, like a lot of anxiety that I didn't need to have. So ever since I built that computer, like my motivation to do things around the studio has been really high. And you can't really tell in these videos, but I cleaned this place up one night, just kind of casually started like, oh, I've got to put these computer boxes away. And I went nuts. I dusted everything. I picked up all my little bits and bobs that accumulate, whether it's like, you know, an XLR connector you're working on or a lens cap that went to some other camera that you're not sure where it is, you know. It would sit around, and it's actually a little bit cluttered right now because I've got stuff going on that's pretty broad in spectrum. But speaking of spectrums, this will be my segue. One of the things I did after doing this cleanup is I have a bunch of acoustic treatment in this room, and let's see. This panel here and this panel here are these big, thick Owens Corning 703 panels. And then over here, just behind my ear, is another, other way. There's two more of those panels there in the corner. And then the corner that's around over there, there's another 2 or 3 panels that are 8 feet wide and 8 feet tall and 2 feet wide each, and 4 or 6 inches. I can't remember. And all the corners around here, I've got a lot of stuff. You can't really see this corner over here. There's a piano in that corner, and I don't have one there. I used to, and now it's somewhere else. So I have all these acoustic panels all around. And then directly over my head, behind me, I used to have a ceiling cloud there because I had a mixed position over there. And I just decided to move it. I'll spare you that story. So I had all of these Owens Corning 703 panels that were 4 inches thick by 2 feet by 4 feet and by 2 feet by 2 feet. And my camera is hard mounted and I'm not going to tilt it up. I don't think I'm going to tilt it up. I'm starting to feel like I might tilt it up. Anyway, I decided to mount a bunch of those panels over my head here, over my mixed position. And that, all right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me put this guitar down. Oh, this could really be a disaster. Okay. Hello. Oh, shaky, shaky. All right, I'm going to try and get this out of here. Okay. Look at, there's my mic. Okay, see those blue panels? There you go. So those panels there, a little behind the scenes, I guess you could say. It's real hard to aim and look at this monitor. So I got 5 big panels and then one little one. I've got some 2x2s that are left over that I was going to put on either side, but it would require kind of a perilous position. Did I make it back? I made it back. Perilous position over the console over here, and I didn't want to do that. But I thought I would talk a little bit about these panels that I made a long time ago. They are slightly beat up because they spent some time leaning in a closet. But I have one of my 2x2s here. And I've watched a lot of videos in my life, but when I built these, there were no YouTube channels that were showing this stuff. I built them probably in 2004 or 5. And these are Owens Corning 703 panels. It's 2 sheets that are 2 inches thick each. And then I cut them in half, to make this 2x2 panel. And I see a lot of people who build these things and they go to a lot of trouble, and I'm not sure why they do, but I've never heard anybody talk about this particular aspect of Owens Corning 703, rigid fiberglass. It is rigid, and this panel is whatever years old, 14 years old, something like that. And they're as straight as they were the day I built them. They do not sag or deform. And it's the same with the 2x2 panels. If you hang them in a structurally reasonable way, they're not going to bow or do anything. And the way I did these, and as far as fabric goes, I don't know if you noticed, my ceiling is this color. So this kind of goes that way. As far as covering them with fabric, you don't need to get some kind of scientifically, acoustically transparent fabric. It's ridiculous. Sound is going to go through this, period. Period. As long as you don't seal it with plastic or something that's going to create a completely closed barrier, all meaningful sound that you're trying to attenuate will travel through darn near any kind of fabric ever. So this is like this stretchy... this is like a stretchy velveteen kind of stuff. You can see it's got a texture. And the good thing about it is, like, when you put it on, you can pull it tight, and so it doesn't have like a really wrinkly appearance. There are some wrinkles in it now because they're a little bit banged up, But these things are you know, they do exactly what they're supposed to do. I don't know if it will be very apparent, but if I turn my head and talk into this thing, it really probably, you know, attenuates my voice as, you know, as you would hear it in this microphone that you can't see, but you saw in my little upshot there. So that's, you know, that's the way I covered these things. This material on the back is the same material that you would find under furniture, like a sofa or a mattress. I don't know what they call this stuff, but they sell it. It's really cheap, and I used 3M Spray 77 adhesive to put all this stuff on. And then this hanging hardware is nothing but like a, you know, a 1/4 inch or a 3/8 inch bolt with a fender washer on the backside here, just to keep the bolt from, you know, pulling down through the stuff. The insulation, my dog's scratching his ear. Hey, buddy. Derby. Oh, Lord. I may edit this out. Yeah, just chill it out. So he's going to come and visit me. You can't see him yet. So anyway, Derby. Oh, don't scratch it up with your paws, bud. No. Okay. I'm glad to see you too. Why don't you lay down and let me continue. You can't see it in here. Let's see if I can. So right here, there is a little hole. I used just a regular hole saw on a drill and cut out about 1/2 inch so that all my bolt hardware would recess. I think I used carriage bolts with a fender washer for it to go through. And it recessed everything. There's like a little 1/2 inch divot here that you can't see it at all on any of the hardware or any of the pieces. And it's really durable, and it works very well. Oh, look, you can, because of the light, you can see that one. There's a hole right there, and then there's a hole. Oh, you can see them. If you get with these bright lights, you can kind of see the change in texture. So there's my story with these things, and I would never, ever make a video about how to do one of these things, because when I get started, all I want to do is get done. I don't want to take a billion steps to move the camera, and you know, somebody else in the world wants to do that, and I'm going to let them. I love to do projects, but I just don't want to. I don't want to film it. Maybe if I had another person doing it, and I don't want to edit it. Even this is just going to be a big meandering thing. So let's see. I rebuilt my computer. It's that Designaire X or Z390 with a i9900K CPU. It's pretty good, pretty strong. Everything's been real smooth. I don't really think I've done anything else meaningful. I put a new speaker in one of my cabinets in the amp room. And for today's video, playing through the 65 Blackface Super Reverb. And I've got this this telly here. A few things about this tone. I've got the treble on the amp really cranked up, and I'm using a 410 Bassman in the amp room where that red wall is. I'm using the 410 Bassman with those speakers for this sound because this would be blowing me away. I think the amp's on 5.5. That would be uncomfortable. I got the treble cranked, and I turned the treble down on the guitar, and that was the best sound. Let's see. I don't know where it is, but here's the treble all the way up. A little bit too much. Works best on the neck. So I'll talk a little bit about that deal, the Ted Hawkins song. It's like a 6/8 time, which makes it a little neat and surprising for like a rootsy song that doesn't necessarily feel like a waltz. But it's just a regular old kind of D5 chord, and then a G over B, and then like a D over A, back to G over B. So it's really just D, G, D, G, D, D, G, D, G, D. That's like the basic structure of it. But I was playing it with that, you know, D to G over B to D over A, back to G over B, D. And do that again. Then it goes up to 4 with a little walk. And then for these, I do kind of those like Keith Richards, fills. So it's a little bit like a Traveling Riverside Blues and Tumbling Dice, you know. Right? So you got the G. And then the 5 chord as an A. So what I'm doing there is I'm playing a regular A, then I do an A over C sharp to a A over E, and I'm just playing the A string at the 7th fret, D string at the 5th fret, G string at the 6th, and then like a little inverted major triad there where I'm on the 11th of the D string, 9th of the G, and 10th of the B. And so in this little area here, I'm playing an A7 chord that would be the same A7 if you did it down here. And then I don't really remember exactly what I improvised, but I played like a little, right, or something like that. And that's like, kind of like in Wind Cries Mary, where it goes. So it's kind of a deal right there on A, and I'm at the 17th fret hammering. I'm barring the 17th fret on the E and the B string, and I hammer on to the 19th fret of the B string, and then play this little, which that's a 16 and a 17 on the G and the B, hammer on to the 18 of the G, and pull off. So it's something like that. And then from there, I kind of like improv'd on the melody of the song with a. So I was using a combination of 6th and 5ths played on the D and the B string. So that first shape is just a D power chord, 12 on the D string, 10 on the B string, and then 9 on the D, 8 on the G for like, 8 on the B for like a little, like a G, like a 6th out of a G chord with 3 in the tonic. So this is like, you know, your standard Steve Cropper type of sound. So I'm on the same pair of strings I've been on. I'm at the 7th fret, 7 down to 5 with a slide, and then 4 and 3 on the D and B. God. So you get the. That's the melody of the song, you know. Doing an A, the 5 chord. So to get out of that thing, I was on the 5 chord, right? And then what would that lick be like? That's more Wind Cries Mary type. So I'm barring at the 14th fret on the D, G, and B strings, and I'm hammering onto the D string at the 16th fret. and then hammering from 14 to 16 on the A string. And then back down to the opening riff. Way too long of a video that's about nothing. Just an update. I'm alive and my studio is doing great. I think the super reverb sounds really good. It's too loud for just about everything, but it's nice to, you know, crack the ice on on something you've been keeping in the freezer or whatever. I don't know. Every now and then I can come up with a pretty clever little zinger, but it's unpredictable. I don't know what kind of videos I'm going to do this year. We'll see. I've gotten a bunch of subscribers. I haven't quite reached 200 yet, but it's like every few days I get one. Some days I get two. I'm not sure how any of that works. God, this video is long. Okay. You guys have a great weekend. I think this is probably going to come out on a Friday. Okay. Have a good one, man.